So hello, this is Yuris Kaja talking to you from Riga, Latvia. I'm going to say a few things about what's been going on here recently. I did a whole thing in Latvian about the kind of raving right-wingers on Latvian X, but I'm putting this mainly as a kind of a video substack about some things that have been recently going on. Those of you who read my written Substack know that I had two obituaries in there, one for Imants Freibergs, the first gentleman of Latvia, and also a prominent computer scientist who's done a lot for the IT sector here in Latvia after coming over with his wife, the then president-elect Vairavīte Freiberga from Canada. Anyway, also the writer Nora Ikstena is mentioned in my written Substack. However, I don't know whether it's this mythical thing that Latvians have about the winter and the time of the wraiths, veļu laiks, which is like when you remember the dead and all that stuff. But we also recently saw the passing of a very prominent female athlete here, Uliana Semyonova, who was a legendary basketball player, an Olympic champion, a three-time world champion, and she passed away very recently, according to the Latvian Basketball Association. Most of her accomplishments were during the Soviet era. She played up until the 1980s, if I'm not sure. Later, she was inducted into the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame and the World Basketball Hall of Fame. She was actually one of the first European female basketball players to be inducted into this Hall of Fame. Anyway, she passed away at the age of 73. And what she did after her career, mainly in the Soviet era, is that she looked after aging and retired Latvian Olympic athletes and founded a kind of society for that purpose. And she is well remembered. She established the Latvian Olympic Social Fund and organized various forms of assistance for sports veterans. The other interesting event is sort of touches a place that I could theoretically call my hometown or the town where my family comes from, at least my father's side. That is the town of Iecava, south of Riga, about a 30-40 minute drive. They are just starting to build a major modular ammunition charge plant there. That is to say, they are building a factory to make modular powder charges. Those are the things you stick into an artillery piece that propel the actual artillery round out of the cannon or the howitzer or whatever you're using. And they are going to probably finish this plant, which at a cost of some 26 million euro from the Latvian side and about €1 million coming from the European Union. They're going to try to finish it by the end of the year. The good news is, of course, this increases the capacity of Latvia to supply its own artillery ammunition and to export it and to create jobs in the town of Iecava. The only kind of slight worry is how hopefully this whole thing is done carefully and there isn't anything happening there that could happen to flatten half the town, which I think is unlikely. I think the thing is somewhere outside of city limits. And while we are on the subject of people who have passed away recently, another person, actually I sort of vaguely knew him when I was growing up in Boston, is the Latvian composer and folk musician and a singer and founder of the exiled Latvian musical ensemble Kolibri, Mārtiņš Aldiņš, who apparently passed away already on the 22nd of December. And despite my occasional Boston contacts, I never learned of that until I read about it in the Latvian media here. The group Kolibri was one of the first exile Latvian folk ensembles to be able to perform in Latvia at the Baltica 88 festival when Latvia was still part of the Soviet Union. That was kind of an accomplishment, but it was also the kind of thing that could get you into trouble with some of the more politically inclined types in the exile community. But be that as may, Kolibri was a kind of folk world music type of ensemble playing a lot of traditional Latvian instruments, the kokle, the recorder or stubble and stuff like that. And they performed in the US, Canada, Europe, etc., in addition to that milestone of being the first to perform in Latvia. On a personal note, Mārtiņš Aldiņš was married to a kind of Latvian Saturday school not classmate. She was a couple of classes down in Boston to Liga Aldiņa. She was called Liga Liepkalna at the time, and she was the daughter of a rather interesting character, Artūrs Liepkalns. He ran the Boston Latvian Saturday School for a number of years. I think his day job was some kind of a business executive, but then he went on in his rather interesting career. He's no longer with us, but he went on to become the head of the Latvian school, the full-time Latvian gymnasium or high school in Münster, Germany. I guess achieving one of his life ambitions, because I think before the war took him away from Latvia, I think he was training to be a teacher. And then he also had himself ordained as a Lutheran minister and actually ran one of the congregations. There's that old saying: if you have 1,000 Latvians in a city, you'll inevitably have 3 Lutheran congregations. And Artūrs Liepkalns, who I remember with great respect, even though he's a bit of an eccentric character, he also was the pastor of one of these congregations for a while. So hats off to his very interesting life, and my condolences and sympathies to his daughters and kind of childhood friend Liga. Well, that's about all I have to sort of ramble on about in lieu of sitting down and writing a Substack. So I am going to sign off from Riga, Latvia. Juris Kažā.